Good evening. This is Business Live. Coming up in the next half hour, economist Professor Charles Aka calls for a broadened tax base to help the country increase revenue.
Lower tax rate creates an incentive for people to supply labor. In the same way as a business, corporate tax. No business want to work and pay 50-60% of their profit into tax. Look, so we need a low tax rate and a higher or bigger tax base.
Also, Cocoa Board pegs participation in exchange program at 97% with over 7 billion cedis worth of bills tendered. And on the Joy Business Van, we'll tell you about JA24 Foods, which is fast becoming a major supplier of quality honey across the country. I am Beverly Brom. More after this, please stay with us. Hello again, thanks for staying with us. We go straight into our stories now, and Cocoa Board is pegging participation in its debt exchange program at 97% with over 7 billion cedis worth of bills that has been tendered. This was after the program ended last Friday. Cocoa Board in July this year launched its Cocoa Bills Exchange program to restructure almost 8 billion cedis worth of debt. Cocoa Board, however, maintained that settlements will now be done on September 4 instead of this Thursday. But in a related development, financing of Cocoa Board activities in the coming months could be under threat. This was after the banks directed Cocoa Board to freeze their bills submitted for participation in the debt exchange program. This is as a result of delays in securing reliefs for participation in the Cocoa Bills debt exchange program. The bank argued that failure to settle these reliefs would affect its ability to stay in business and finance Cocoa Board in the coming months. Now, economist at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Charles Aka, has indicated that a broadened tax base will help the country increase revenue. He argued that such initiatives will spread the tax net wider compared to periodic increases in taxes, which will only burden a few. According to him, increasing the tax base will help improve tax collection. Speaking on a Joy Business discussion themed Ghana's high taxes, the causes and finding remedies, Mr. Aka emphasized the importance of capturing all income earners under the tax bracket.
So it's expected that the country grows is about the consistency of the growth and also the level of growth. In our history, for about 2 decades, we've been growing around an average of about 5%. That's the best we have achieved. There are times where, when we found oil in 2011, we had about 11 to 12% growth, and then it came down again. For many periods, we grow around less than 3%, 4%, 5%. My estimation shows that if we do the right kind of investment, we should be targeting about 7% GDP growth for a decade. When we are able to, and I don't think that's possible under an IMF program, but the IMF program actually brings in austerity. But it's not feasible because the only way to do that is to impose new and additional taxes, and that brings us back to the question we have. The IMF is asking that VAT must be increased. So VAT is increased from 12.5% to 15%, yeah, which is actually counterproductive in a high inflation environment. We introduce more excise taxes on companies and businesses, which is counterproductive in a high inflation environment. Okay, so you can increase your tax to GDP ratio by imposing high taxes and more taxes, but that again is counterproductive because it stifles.
How is it counterproductive? Help me understand.
Yeah, because taxes affect incentives. So if you take, for example, income tax. So income tax affects labor supply. Okay, if I'm going to work and I know that 30-50% of my income is going to go into tax, it already, as an economic rational being, you decide whether is it worth it Should I go and work and pay half of my income to tax, and I don't know what they're going to use the tax for? So all things being equal, the lower tax rate creates an incentive for people to supply labor. In the same way as a business, corporate tax. No business want to work and pay 50-60% of their profit into tax. So we need low tax rate and a higher or bigger tax base. That's what other countries are doing.
Now, government has now set the end of September this year as the new date for the Ghana Financial Stability Fund to take off. It's coming after an earlier date was reviewed by the Finance Ministry. But government says it has now secured the initial seed capital for this fund, as well as some commitments from the country's donor partners. The Ghana Association of Banks, in a recent report, pushed for a quick establishment of the fund to support banks facing liquidity challenges. But Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam is the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry.
The DDEP was based on the stress test, the comprehensive stress test that we conducted, to determine the effect of the program on the domestic banks. And so we fully understood what the effect could be. Is the quantum of the effect that we did not know. But we knew that some will be adversely affected. The good news is that some of the banks have recovered quickly, and a lot of them have declared profits. But those that are still faced with solvency challenges, we want to be able to address that through the Financial Stability Fund. And this is money government is putting in place, as well as the World Bank. We are contributing about $500 million. The World Bank wants to do about $250 million. And this is the first phase of the funds that we are going to disburse to banks that are having solvency challenges. Liquidity, we shouldn't even go there because we don't think there is much of liquidity problems in the banking, local banking sector. Of the forbearances the Bank of Ghana provided. But for solvency issues, yes, some have, especially the state banks with state interest, and they are the target banks for support under the Financial Stability Fund. We're hoping that by the end of September, I think it should be operational so that the banks can begin to receive this support in order to make them stronger. You also know that government is embarking on an aggressive growth strategy, and to be able to achieve that, we need to be able to provide the private sector with capital so that they can be able to invest. And therefore finalizing the Financial Stability Fund and then implementing it as quickly as we could will also help the private sector have access to capital through our local financial institutions to support our growth.
So that doesn't mean that you will go ahead with what you have, the seed capital, whilst later you will look forward to, because you are now working towards September. The World Bank is still working on to advance their support as well. Will we start with something whilst later the additional donor funding comes on board to support?
Yeah, our actual target is $1.5 billion, but the 750 we are doing, as I indicated, is the first phase of support that will be provided through the Financial Stability Fund. And so, yes, we're talking to donors. A lot of them have shown interest as and when it is necessary for government to raise additional funds so that overall we are able to meet the $1.5 billion dollars going forward. We should be able to do that.
Now, the Economist Intelligence Unit is warning Ghana and other African countries that the high inflation and interest rates could continue to weigh on growth and investor confidence over the 2023-2024 forecast period. That's according to its latest report dubbed Africa's Operational Risk Outlook. Here's more.
Said these situations disrupt businesses, investment and economic growth, leading to uncertain operating environments. Furthermore, UK-based organization pointed out that although greater focus will be placed on building regional markets and value chains, progress on the continent-wide African Continental Free Trade Area will remain slow. This is given the complexities and challenges of setting up effective trading arrangements and existing non-tariff barriers such as poor regional infrastructure connectivity. In addition, widespread corruption in public services, a lack of accountability amongst civil servants, limited government control beyond key urban capital centers, a lack of judicial independence, among others, will continue to hold back Africa's operational risk environment in the medium term. Meanwhile, the 5 best-rated African countries for operational risk in Africa as of mid-2023 are Mauritius, Cape Verde, Botswana, South Africa, and Morocco.
Now, Unilever Ghana Plc in Tema is pushing towards achieving 100% recyclable, reusable or compostable plastics by 2025 to help address endless threats plastic pose to the environment. Over the last few years, about 400 million tons of plastic is said to be produced annually, globally, with half of this figure being single-use plastics and polluting the environment. Supply Chain Director at Unilever Ghana Plc, Mayank Kapoor, was speaking to Joy Business as the company, with support from Ghana Recycling Initiative by private enterprise, clean post-consumer plastic waste at the Community 3 Beach. Our Tema correspondent Kwame Yanka has more in the following report.
According to United Nations, over 17 million metric tons of plastics found its way into the ocean, which make up 85% of the litter in the ocean in 2021. The impact of plastics menace cannot be underestimated, with the ocean and ocean life at the receiving end. Organizations around the world are making frantic efforts in helping address this mess. Unilever Ghana Plc, which believes in sustainability, says this trend cannot be allowed to continue, calling for deliberate and conscious attempt in bringing in the much desired change. The 2-hour cleanup exercise at Community 3 Beach, close to Terminal 3 of the Tema port, saw participants collecting over 4 tons of plastics after Coastal Conservancy Organization weighed. Mayank Kapoor is the Supply Chain Director at Unilever Ghana Plc.
We at Unilever are committed to have 100% recyclable, reusable or compostable plastics by 2025, and that we are going towards the target, and we hope to all on these organizations, not just Unilever, to all, to please support us, come together, and to all Ghanaians as well, to support us to clean up and reduce the plastic usage overall. That's what is our mission, and Unilever, we are committed for it overall. I want to thank Tema Metropolitan Assembly, Coastal Conservancy Organization, GRIPE volunteers, as well as Unilever colleagues of mine who have been here, and we nearly collected more than 4 tons of plastics from these beaches.
The exercise also forms part of Unilever's target to collect 10,000 tons of plastic waste along Ghana's shores by close of 2023, which is their quota for a waste-free world. Mayank Kapoor used the occasion to appeal to media outlets to join the drive in ridding the environment of plastic waste. Meanwhile, Chairman of Coastal Conservancy Organization, Justice Ishen, explains why removing plastics around Terminal 3 area was crucial.
When we heard that Unilever wanted to partner us for a cleanup, we selected this location, specifically because of its proximity to the terminal. And we had always felt that plastics, when they get into water, it's difficult to remove them. And the plastics, when they get into water, they are transboundary. They could go anywhere based on the direction where the water goes. And so we came here today, and I think that we've done a very good job. We've been able to pick roughly 4 tons of plastics just for today. And we are requesting that if Unilever can regularize this activity, every year we come around. And we are also asking other organizations in Ghana, in Tema, it shouldn't be the sole responsibility of any one organization.
Justice Ishen says waste management companies can do their best, but dealing with waste issues starts from homes, and general attitude towards waste must be looked at with all seriousness.
Welcome back. The honey market has seen significant growth in recent years, with consumers becoming increasingly interested in natural and healthy sweetness. As a result, there has been an increase in the production of honey by both small-scale and commercial beekeepers. However, This growth has also led to concerns over the quality and authenticity of some honey products on the market. The Joy Business Van is at JA24 Foods Limited, owned by Judith Akosatama, which is fast becoming a major supplier of quality honey. And that's how we end Business Live tonight. For more business news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. I am Beverly Broom. I leave you with news making headlines on the international front.